22 que o nosso Primeiro-Ministro de Portugal está no Canadá e cá nesta residência que é também da Governadora, Madame Julie Payette, o nosso Ministro tem como o primeiro momento oficial. Fique para ver. No exterior do Parlamento tivemos o encontro de dois primeiros ministros. Trudeau recebe António Costa. Aqui mesmo está feita esta recepção oficial no Parlamento. Estão em reunião. Vamos ver o que é que se passa depois deste encontro com a presse.
Por favor, deem as boas-vindas ao Primeiro-Ministro da República de Portugal, Sua Excelência, o Sr. António Costa, e ao Primeiro-Ministro do Canadá, Sua Excelência, o Sr. Justin Trudeau.
Secretary of State, Portuguese Communities Abroad, José David Canero, and Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, have said or signed on behalf of the Portuguese Republic and Canada a memorandum of understanding concerning youth mobility. Le secrétaire d'État aux communautés portugaises, José David Canero, et le ministre de l'Immigration, des Réfugiés et de la Citoyenneté, Ahmed Hussein, signeront au nom de la République portugaise et du Canada.
C'est donc dans cet esprit d'amitié que nous venons tout juste de conclure une rencontre productive durant laquelle nous avons notamment discuté de commerce, de sécurité et de liens entre nos citoyens. The first item on the agenda this morning was progressive trade. Last September, Canada, Portugal, and other European partners welcomed the provisional application of the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement. An ambitious and comprehensive trade deal, CETA establishes a framework to create real, meaningful growth that will benefit everyone. The reduction of trade barriers between Canada and its European partners has made it cheaper for Canadian families to buy European products and created more opportunities for businesses to grow beyond our borders. In turn, these businesses are creating more of the good, well-paying jobs people need and contributing to the growth of our respective economies. But what sets CETA apart is that it reflects the values of its signatories. It includes provisions that protect workers' rights, safeguard our environment, and support public services. It also upholds the rights of governments to legislate and regulate in the public interest while setting the standard on the protection of human rights and the mobility of persons. And I want to specifically thank Portugal for ratifying CETA last December. 9 European Union member states have so far ratified this truly progressive agreement, and we look forward to others joining that list. I look forward to discussing the many benefits of CETA and the future of our commercial relationship with the Prime Minister at the Economic Club of Canada tomorrow. Le Premier ministre et moi avons également discuté des enjeux de sécurité auxquels nous sommes confrontés, comme la lutte contre le terrorisme, l'immigration forcée et l'érosion de la démocratie. Dans le cadre de notre rencontre, nous avions réitéré notre volonté commune à poursuivre notre travail conjoint au sein d'organisations multilatérales comme l'ONU et l'OTAN pour contrer la violence et assurer la stabilité à travers le monde. Le Canada et le Portugal participeront d'ailleurs tous deux à l'opération de maintien de la paix de l'ONU au Mali. Dans les prochains mois, nos gouvernements finaliseront et concluront le protocole d'entente sur les opérations de recherche et de sauvetage aéronautique afin d'approfondir notre coopération au chapitre de la défense. Et sur ce point, je souhaite réitérer l'engagement commun de nos pays à travailler ensemble pour contrer les nombreux défis auxquels nous faisons face en tant que pays de l'Atlantique. Nous entendons rehausser notre coopération pour lutter contre la pollution des océans et assurer la viabilité des communautés côtières. Finally, this meeting was a chance for us to deepen the people-to-people ties that unite our two nations. Indeed, Portugal and Canada are not only strong partners, but close friends. In fact, May 13th, in a few days, will mark 65 years since a group of Portuguese immigrants aboard the ocean liner Saturnia arrived at Pier 21 in Halifax. These immigrants and their descendants helped shape Canada into the country we know and love today. Today, Canada is home to more than 480,000 people of Portuguese descent who continue to enrich our national fabric and our communities every single day. Prime Minister Costa and I have every intention to build on these historical ties to bring our two countries even closer. To this end, a new arrangement on youth mobility was signed today, which will open new channels between the young people of Canada and Portugal. And later this year, a modernized agreement on social security will be finalized so that people who have lived or worked in Portugal and in Canada can receive the pension or benefits to which they are entitled. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister and I will head to Toronto, where we will meet with Canadian and Portuguese businesses who are deepening the economic ties between our two countries. We will also attend a cultural event with members of the community and experience firsthand the close friendship that unites us. I look forward to continuing our discussions on how we can work together to deepen our partnership and deliver positive results for people. Once again, Antonio, thank you so much for making this trip. Thank you all for joining us. Muito obrigado.
Eh bien, tout d'abord, j'aimerais remercier très chaleureusement le Premier ministre Justin Trudeau de m'avoir invité à effectuer cette visite officielle au Canada. Après les discussions fructueuses que nous avons eues ce matin, je peux dire que c'est vraiment une opportunité historique pour les relations entre nos deux pays. Tout d'abord, elle a lieu à un moment où se renforcent les relations entre le Canada et l'Union européenne avec l'entrée en vigueur provisoire de la CETA. De l'autre côté, elle a lieu à un moment où les positions du gouvernement du Portugal et du Canada sont fortement alignées, comme le prouve notre déclaration politique conjointe d'aujourd'hui et le clair support qu'on donne aux priorités définies par la présidence canadienne du G7 pour le G7 dans les années à venir. Cette visite ouvre grande opportunité pour le développement de nos relations dans les domaines économiques, mais aussi dans la recherche et dans le domaine scientifique. Avec la signature de l'accord sur la mobilité des jeunes, nous renforcerons les liens solides entre nos peuples qui unissent nos deux pays. Nous exprimons également notre intention de finaliser rapidement les négociations en cours pour mettre à jour la Convention sur la sécurité sociale entre nos deux pays et un accord de recherche et sauvetage dans l'Atlantique entre nos forces armées. Cette visite sera également une occasion de rendre hommage à la communauté canadienne portugaise qui compte de près de demi-million de personnes et qui est présente partout au Canada, de Vancouver à Terre-Neuve, et de remercier pour sa contribution au progrès du Canada, mais aussi pour remercier le Canada pour son accueil à nos concitoyens. La participation du Premier ministre Trudeau à la réunion que nous tiendrons demain soir avec la communauté portugaise au syndicat Layuna à Toronto témoigne bien la reconnaissance du Canada pour cette communauté parfaitement intégrée. Merci beaucoup, Justine, pour ta participation. We built up this relationship on a strong foundation. Portugal and Canada are close friends, united by Atlantic and by the people, and that have crossed it along the centuries. Our countries remain strong allies in NATO. They are net contributors to peace and security, like-minded in many of the most important topics in the United Nations agenda and open to the world. They hold close views in their defenses of multilateralism, sustainable development, the protection of human rights, the combat to climate change, or the importance of building tolerant and inclusive societies. We firmly believe that above all the world we want to build needs bridges linking peoples, countries and continents. Let me just highlight a few important aspects of this visit. Later today, I will inaugurate in Kingston the most significant industrial investment by a Portuguese company in Canada in recent years, Frulact, a multinational food production firm. Tomorrow in Toronto, where Prime Minister Trudeau and myself will jointly close an important economic seminar attended by around 40 Portuguese associations and firms. In Montreal, I will highlight cultural and linguistic links between our two countries by visiting the Santa Cruz Community School, where Portuguese is taught, and the Canadian Centre of Architecture, which has recently acquired the archive of the Portuguese architect César Vieira. I would like to finish by offering my condolences to the families and friends of the victims of the shocking incident in Toronto, leading to the loss of innocent lives. Our thoughts were with the Canadian people on that sorrowful occasion. Thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you. Look forward to taking questions now, but I also realize this is a good moment to highlight that today is World Press Freedom Day, and this is something that we, as countries that share values, certainly support. We're pleased to be taking questions from media like we do as often as we can, and it's important to remember that as we move forward on protecting and upholding democratic principles and rights, an informed, independent and strong media and news sector is extraordinarily important for the strength of our countries. Je veux féliciter les journalistes aujourd'hui sur la Journée internationale de la liberté de la presse et souligner à quel point c'est important pour nos démocraties de garder une presse indépendante et forte pour assurer que nous pouvons continuer d'être des sociétés libres et en santé.
Donc, ça veut dire qu'on aura des réponses à toutes nos questions, si j'ai bien compris.
Vous auriez des réponses, oui.
Monsieur Costa, je commencerai avec vous. Le Portugal a décriminalisé toutes les drogues. C'est un modèle qui a un certain succès. Est-ce que vous en avez parlé aujourd'hui avec Monsieur Trudeau? Est-ce que vous croyez que c'est un modèle qui pourrait convenir au Canada compte tenu dans le contexte de la crise des opioïdes? Monsieur Trudeau, vous pouvez en discuter aussi. Mais ma question porte sur le projet de loi sur la légalisation du cannabis. Il y a un comité sénatorial qui recommande de clarifier dans la loi que les provinces ont le droit d'interdire la culture de cannabis à domicile, comme le Québec et le Manitoba veulent le faire. Est-ce que vous êtes ouvert à cette suggestion ou est-ce que vous pensez que ça contrevient à l'esprit de la loi?
Eh bien, on a réussi une grande réforme de la législation sur la drogue dans l'année 2000. Depuis 17 ans, on peut dire qu'il a été un succès. Notre focus a été de voir les consommateurs non comme un criminel, mais comme quelqu'un qui avait besoin de soins. Et ce qui était plus important, c'est de mobiliser le système de santé et pas le système pénal. 17 ans après, on trouve dans les rapports des Nations Unies l'exemple du Portugal comme un exemple d'une bonne pratique. Chaque pays a ses propres choix. On a trouvé un chemin qui a permis la réduction de la consommation et surtout de toute la criminalité associée à la consommation. Et ça est clairement une réussite parce qu'il y a surtout une forte réduction des dépendances de drogue au Portugal.
Au Canada, on est toujours intéressé de faire des politiques basées sur les données, sur les faits, et c'est évidemment intéressant ce qui se passe à l'international. Mais comme j'ai dit, pour l'instant, c'est aucunement dans les plans du Canada de procéder à la décriminalisation de toutes les drogues. On est concentré, comme vous le savez tous, sur la légalisation et le contrôle de la marijuana pour des raisons extrêmement claires. D'abord, nos jeunes ont actuellement trop facilement accès à la marijuana. Le crime organisé est en train de faire d'énormes profits sur la vente de marijuana. Ça fait plusieurs années qu'on travaille avec les provinces, qu'on travaille avec les experts, qu'on regarde ce qui s'est fait ailleurs dans le monde pour optimiser le système de contrôle de marijuana que nous allons amener. Bien que nous sommes toujours ouverts à continuer de discuter avec les provinces, notre approche a été ancrée dans ce qui est dans l'intérêt des Canadiens, ce qui va arrêter de créer des impacts néfastes sur nos communautés et sur nos individus. Et on sait que notre approche est la bonne. Okay. Obviously, Canada is always interested in what is going on elsewhere, particularly as we take an approach on developing policies that are anchored in evidence and data. So we're always willing and looking to success stories around the world for different models we can move forward on, but I can reiterate that it is absolutely not our intention at this time to move forward on legalization of all drugs. We are very much focused on the control and legalization of marijuana because the current system is not working. Right now, young people have far too easy access in Canada to marijuana. Criminal organizations make billions of dollars a year in profits on the sale of marijuana, and we need to move forward on a system that controls and regulates while protecting our kids and our communities. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to continue to move forward. We're going to bring in legalization as we've committed to this summer. On schedule. We continue to work with provinces, with Indigenous communities, with groups across this country to look at how we're going to move forward through what is a process, not an event. But we are confident that our approach is the right one to keep Canadians safe and to eliminate the criminal elements from this trade in marijuana.
En tout respect, ça répond. Oui, allez-y.
Je dois préciser, on a décriminalisé, mais on n'a pas légalisé. On reste en conformité avec les conventions des Nations Unies qui interdisent la consommation. Ce qu'on a fait, c'est de retirer le système pénal. maintenir l'interdiction et mobiliser les systèmes de santé pour le soin des consommateurs. Et il y a une différence entre la légalisation et la décriminalisation. C'est seulement pour vous.
Merci. En cette journée mondiale de la liberté de la presse, M. Trudeau, en tout respect, vous n'avez pas répondu à la question. Quand le le cannabis va être légal au Canada, à quelle loi doit-on obéir? À la loi fédérale ou aux lois provinciales qui interdisent la culture à domicile? Ne serait-il pas mieux de le clarifier dans la loi tout de suite plutôt que d'obliger les citoyens à contester les lois, de vivre dans une certaine incertitude?
Tout à fait. On continue de travailler avec les provinces sur leur responsabilité par rapport au régime qui sera mis en place. Mais soyons très clairs, notre décision de permettre un nombre limité de cultivation à domicile de plantes de marijuana est basée sur les faits, sur les données, sur les recommandations d'experts. C'est pour créer un système qui va remplacer les aspects criminels qui font des profits sur cette vente de marijuana. Et l'approche qu'on a préconisée et qu'on met de l'avant dans la loi fédérale, c'est la bonne et c'est celle-ci qu'on va s'attendre à ce que les gens suivent.
In English too, please, again, sorry.
To be very clear, the decisions and the ways we have chosen to move forward on this issue are based on months, if not years, of consultations with experts, of looking at best practices around the world, of looking at the best way to ensure that we are eliminating the criminal elements from the sale of marijuana and protecting our communities and our children. The decision on home cultivation of up to 4 plants was based on logic and evidence, and it's one that we will continue to establish as part of the federal framework.
Further on cannabis, there's concerns coming from the Senate on implementation. We also heard from First Nations yesterday at the AFN. Some of them are concerned about the speed with which this is happening. You say you're committed to doing it this summer. Would you consider delaying further to ensure you get this right?
Every single day, Canadians are hurt and harmed by the current approach on marijuana. It's not working. Of 29 different developed countries around the world, a UN study demonstrated that Canada has the #1 rate of usage by underage citizens of marijuana. Our current system is failing our kids. Criminal organizations, street gangs, gun runners make over $6 billion every year in the sale of marijuana. They then turn around and use that money to continue to fund even more criminal activities. We have been talking about this since well before we formed government. We have been working with our partners across the country on making this happen, and we are going to be moving forward this summer on the legalization of cannabis. Obviously, as I've said many times, this is not an event, it is a process, and we will continue to work with our partners in municipalities and provinces and Indigenous leadership and communities to ensure that we are getting this right and moving forward in a responsible way that supports all the partners as we move forward on this. But make no mistake, this is a public health and public safety issue that we committed to in the election campaign and that we will be moving forward with this summer.
On the expulsion of Aaron Weir from the NDP caucus, in the last Parliament you kicked out 2 MPs who were accused of sexual misconduct. In this Parliament you have allegations against Kit Hare. He remains in your caucus. Do you think there needs to be rules for all parties universally so that everybody knows what the rules are and what the penalties are for breaking them?
I think the rules are very clear, and we've been very clear about them. No one in any workplace across this country should be subject to harassment or sexual violence or intimidation of any sort. Those are the rules. And the clarity with which our government has moved forward on demonstrating that with Bill C-65 and others in this place is very, very clear. As to establishing a process that will start from a place of belief and support of any individual who comes forward, allow for a proper, rigorous process that will look into allegations and complaints and deal with them in a fair manner that both gets to the reality of the situation, while at the same time protecting the privacy and confidentiality of individuals who come forward as necessary and as desired. These are the things that we are moving forward with. Obviously, every case has its own particularities and its own circumstances, and we will deal with them in appropriate measures as they come up. But the fundamental principle and rule is that any individual in their workplace, in their home, across the country, should not be subject to harassment or sexual violence. That is the rule that we have made very clear here in this Parliament and in workplaces across the country. We will continue to demonstrate and develop the processes necessary to ensure that that rule is followed.
Okay. We have a Portuguese press.
You both believe in free trade, but I would like to ask you how you are seeing the politicals of Trump administration that is putting barriers in the free trade. How are you going to react? And about free circulation of people in the world. We have here in Canada many Portuguese working without immigration paper documents. And many of them worked here for 4 years with a permit, but are coming back to our country. How are you going to do with the immigration policies?
Obviously, on free trade, Canada, like Portugal, is a country that has a long history of success through trade across oceans and around the world. And Canadians remain very positively inclined towards trade, although there are some of the anxieties that Canadians feel that are mirrored around the country about the fact that perhaps trade hasn't been good for everyone, that certain people have benefited but a large number of people have not benefited from the opportunities and the growth that comes from trade. That is why we are so proud of the CETA agreement that demonstrates that trade deals can protect and include everyone in the benefits of trade. And that's why we certainly look at CETA as a model for trade deals around the world. As we are in the process of renegotiating NAFTA, we stay focused on the fact that there are concrete benefits for workers in Canada, in the United States, and in Mexico. And we continue to work very hard at the negotiating table to try and move forward on a new and improved NAFTA. On the issue of undocumented workers and people who have been in Canada for many years. Unfortunately, there's a fair bit of misinformation going on this issue. This is an issue that we take seriously. Obviously, we ensure in Canada, and one of the reasons why Canadians continue to be so supportive of immigration and of migration is that they have confidence in our system. We have a system based on rules and laws and principles that will continually be enforced as a matter of fairness, as a matter of the rule of law. However, on various contexts and situations, we're always ready to work with communities affected to see if there are paths forward that can be taken. But at this time, we are ensuring that our immigration rules and our immigration system is respected and followed.
Have a follow-up? No. Next one.
Hello, Rui Alves Veloso from Portuguese Public Television. I will make the question in Portuguese to Mr. António Costa. Sr. Primeiro-Ministro, a questão da energia é uma questão global. O último governo socialista está debaixo de fogo por causa do pagamento de rendas excessivas à EDP, a maior elétrica nacional. Como outros socialistas, entretanto, declararam em Portugal que se envergonharam do que terá acontecido com o ex-ministro da Economia, Manuel Pinho, e com o ex-primeiro-ministro José Sócrates, também se envergonha do que aconteceu. é uma pergunta. Para o Sr. Trudeau, falaram muito do reforço de relações económicas entre os dois países, entre Canadá e Portugal. Em que áreas concretas, concretamente, para que não seja um discurso vazio, em que áreas concretas é que pode haver um reforço de relações económicas entre Portugal e o Canadá? Muito obrigado.
Bom, em primeiro lugar, é preciso não confundir questões que estão no domínio da justiça com uma política energética. A política energética portuguesa é muito clara. O maior desafio que a humanidade enfrenta nos próximos anos é das alterações climáticas e, para enfrentar as alterações climáticas com sucesso, temos de ter um novo paradigma energético. A prioridade às energias renováveis é essencial. Portugal tem condições únicas de estar na primeira linha na energia hidráulica, na energia eólica e na energia solar. Portugal teve há 2 anos, pela primeira vez, 4 dias consecutivos em que foi integralmente abastecida só com energias renováveis. Já este ano conseguimos ter um excedente de produção de energias renováveis e, por isso, somos defensores de que é necessário reforçar as interconexões com a Europa, de forma a que o custo da produção de energia baixe e de forma a que outros países europeus que têm piores condições que Portugal para beneficiar de energia solar ou da energia hidráulica possam ter um melhor mix energético. Foi por isso que fizemos um acordo com Marrocos para estabelecer uma interconexão de forma a podermos vender a Marrocos a energia excedente que temos da parte das energias renováveis. E por isso estamos convencidos que, conforme formos aumentando as interconexões, seja para a África, seja para a Europa, seja com a maior integração do mercado ibérico, nós vamos ter um mercado que vai permitir um pleno aproveitamento da nossa capacidade de produção de energias renováveis, passemos a ser exportadores de energia em vez de importadores de energia e energia de melhor qualidade. Por outro lado, temos vindo ao longo destes 2 anos e meio a reduzir significativamente os custos administrativos e os custos sobre os consumidores da energia, quer com a aplicação da tarifa social, quer com o corte de rendas excessivas que existiam relativamente a certos produtores. E esta é uma estratégia que iremos prosseguir, de forma a baixar os custos, mas continuar a incrementar e aumentar o peso das energias renováveis. É por isso que atribuímos também a máxima prioridade à mobilidade elétrica. Primeiro porque é fundamental para diminuir as emissões através do sistema de transportes, mas também porque a mobilidade elétrica é uma excelente forma de estabilizar e regularizar a produção, que varia muito ao longo do dia, da energia e permitir, nos momentos de menor consumo pela indústria, de menor consumo pelas habitações, haver um consumo da energia no abastecimento às viaturas elétricas. Esta é a nossa política e a política está certa. Quanto àquilo que é da justiça, eu creio que não temos nenhuma razão para não confiar integralmente na capacidade do nosso sistema de justiça para assegurar aquilo que é fundamental assegurar num Estado de Direito. Que ninguém está acima da lei e que seja quem for que cometa uma ilegalidade deve ser punido. Se essas ilegalidades se vierem a confirmar, serão certamente uma desonra para a nossa democracia, mas se não se vierem a confirmar, é a demonstração de que o nosso sistema de justiça funciona em todas as dimensões, a independência da investigação e a preservação da inocência que todos têm direito. Nós temos que manter uma política energética que dê prioridade às energias renováveis. E não há qualquer eventual facto criminal praticado por este ou por aquele que possa comprometer o sucesso de uma política. E não confundamos as opções políticas com aquilo que podem ter sido os comportamentos e que a justiça, que felizmente em Portugal é independente, que é séria, terá todas as condições para esclarecer e dirimir. E é importante que o faça, porque não há nada pior para a democracia do que haver suspeições que não estão confirmadas em sentenças transitadas em julgado. Aquilo que eu desejo é que o nosso sistema de justiça funcione, confio que funcione e que se apure o que houver a apurar.
Merci tout le monde.
Mr. Trudeau.
Signing and ratifying trade agreements is an important step in creating economic investment, but it's not the final step. Obviously, how we then follow up and create opportunities for our businesses, for our investors to benefit from great deals like CETA, it requires opportunities, requires efforts, requires follow-up. And that's why I'm so pleased to welcome Antonio here to Canada at a time where we're bringing together investors in Canada and in Portugal to look at opportunities. The example of the significant investment in the fruit processing plant near Kingston is a great example of the kinds of partnerships we're going on. I look forward to hearing and meeting with many more business people over the coming days who are looking at the tremendous opportunities that our countries that have such deep friendships and deep alignments can continue to move forward and use a long-established friendship and partnership as a way to accelerate and continue economic success in our two countries. I also want to highlight how pleased I was to be able to witness the signing of a youth mobility agreement. We know that getting young people back and forth between our countries to discover opportunities, to get educated, to plan for a future, to innovate, to perhaps develop their entrepreneurial skills are exactly what is going to serve us in such great stead as we build even closer economic ties through the rest of the 21st century. I'm very excited about all the opportunities and look forward to continuing to talk about investments between Canada and Portugal in the coming days. Obrigado.
Ora, temos aqui dois deputados que são federais, o Peter Fonseca, que é da área do Ontário, e temos Alexandre Mendes, que é do Quebec. Eu começaria pelo Peter. Peter, foi hoje estabelecido aqui um acordo entre o Canadá e Portugal em relação à juventude. Conte-me lá que acordo é este.
Sim, este acordo entre o Canadá e o Portugal vai dar a oportunidade a canadianos e a portugueses para poderem viajar entre os dois países e durante o tempo que estão cá podem trabalhar. Eu acho que o acordo dá até 2 anos de trabalho. Uma pessoa pode vir e tem essa oportunidade para trabalhar em qualquer sector e estar aqui 2 anos. Se gostam do Canadá ou gostam do Portugal, e nós gostamos dos dois, têm essa oportunidade e eu acho isto excelente para as nossas relações crescerem com Portugal.
Pergunta a Alexandra, também há aqui um momento especial entre deputados que vêm de Portugal e aos deputados aqui do Canadá, é certo?
Efetivamente, também eleitos de Portugal, temos o Presidente do Conselho do Governo dos Açores, que está aqui, temos o Secretário de Estado das Comunidades, o Secretário de Estado da Internacionalização. Vai ser um momento interessantíssimo para nós, parlamentares canadianos, com os parlamentares portugueses, de poder discutir do que nos aproxima, mais até do que pode haver como diferenças, mas do que nos aproxima e sobretudo, estamos a começar a finalizar o planeamento do primeiro mês de Portugal, por assim dizer, no Canadá, que foi declarado oficialmente. Portanto, estamos a planear a festa do Dia de Portugal à volta desse momento histórico.
Eu quero agradecer aos dois pela vossa presença e esta recepção que está a ser dada ao Ministro de Portugal, que é o Dr. António Costa. Muito obrigada do vosso apoio.
Muito obrigado a vós, Montreal Magazine, sempre presentes.
Muito obrigado, estamos com grande orgulho de ter o Primeiro-Ministro aqui.
E Portugal fala bem alto nesta cidade. Otávio recebeu e muito bem o Primeiro-Ministro de Portugal, Justin Trudeau, foi sensível a esta natureza de vermos as nossas bandeiras brilhar pelas ruas da cidade. E não só, hoje completa-se o acordo que foi assinado para a mobilidade dos jovens. Passamos para Montreal, temos a visita já do Primeiro-Ministro amanhã, por isso não perca esta oportunidade. A Conceição Ferreira e Alberto Feio para o Montreal Magazine.